Now I want to talk about the saint of the day. We have Saint Polycarp. Now, Saint Polycarp is one of those names that I've heard like 1,000 times, but I've never actually known who this person is, and maybe you're the same way. So it was actually quite interesting learning about him and how significant he is to the early church. He is part of the second generation of church leaders. He was actually a disciple of St. John the Apostle, and he was the bishop of Smyrna, and he was close friends with St. Ignatius of Antioch, a very important church father as well, who told him at one point, "Your mind is grounded in God as on an immovable rock." So obviously he was thought of as a very holy person, very imitative of the life of Jesus, and very steadfast in the faith. He was challenged a few times from a few different people. Again, this is like right after Jesus has ascended into heaven. The original apostles are spreading the word. They have some of their disciples, but this is kind of immediately after. This is the very beginning of the church. And so at this time, you did have a lot of heresies springing about. You had pretty much all the things that Jesus did not directly preach about are kind of coming up. Some mysteries are being discussed and some in heretical ways. And so there was a lot of confusion at the time. And it said here that one of these heretical leaders, Marcion, leader of the Marcionites, who followed the dualistic heresy, which is essentially saying, hey, we are body and spirit, but the body is evil and the spirit is good, which of course is not true. We're not inherently evil because we're human, though we are body and soul. But this person reached out to Polycarp saying, hey, you need to recognize us, Polycarp. And he responded by saying, I recognize you, yes, I recognize the son of Satan. So sort of a similar response of, Jesus, get behind me, Satan. And that sort of very candid, almost aggressive response to these people that Jesus often had when he was challenged. It was also important enough to meet with the Pope at the time to discuss how and when Easter was to be celebrated, which is pretty significant. But the life of a Christian was not easy in these times. There was a lot of Christian persecution, and Polycarp, being one of the spiritual leaders of Christianity at the time, was definitely known and a target. It says here that during one day when Christians were being attacked by animals in the arena, the crowd was chanting, "Let Polycarp be found." They wanted him to be martyred next. And so the word got to him, and people urged him to go and hide at this nearby farm. And he stopped and prayed on it, and he had a vision of, it says, his pillow turning to fire. And so he declared that this meant that, hey, this means I'm going to be burned alive, sort of a premonition of his death. And he did hide for a bit, but eventually he was found, and his captors came to take him away. And granted, at the time, he's 86 years old. He's an old man. But the captors come to take him away, and he just asks for some time to pray. So he ends up praying for a couple hours, praying for the whole Catholic Church throughout the world, and afterwards, the guards took him to the arena to be killed. It says here that when he was brought in, there was a voice heard from heaven calling down to Polycarp to be brave. And then he was prompted to renounce Christianity and to swear by Caesar alone. But Polycarp responded by saying, "If you imagine that I will swear by Caesar, you do not know who I am. Let me tell you plainly, I am a Christian." And they told him again, "If you don't renounce your Christianity, you'll be thrown to the animals, so you need to change your mind." And then Polycarp responded, "Change of mind from better to worse is not a change allowed to us." And after that, they declared that he would be burned alive. And so they put him on the pyre. He says a prayer, they burn him alive, and it's said that the fire did not harm him. Instead of burning, it was like he was glowing. After this, they saw that, okay, he's not dying by the fire, so they stabbed him instead, and it said that the blood that flowed from his wound put out the fire. After this, they did not even let the Christians take his body. They did burn his body, though later on, the Christians did go and steal his bones. And it's said that this was around 155 or 156. So, St. Polycarp, a very important, influential early church father. Again, this is the second generation of church leaders. These people knew the apostles directly, were appointed by them, and are going out in a very difficult time to counter a lot of the heresies or a lot of the controversies and misteachings about the church, and are working on laying out exactly what the Catholic Church entails. And more than that, here, we know that he was a respected church leader. We know that he spoke against these things, but also he faced his martyrdom bravely, refused to renounce Christ, and was killed for it, as were many at that time. And then, on a slightly lighter note, fun fact, Saint Polycarp is the patron saint of relief from earaches. I don't quite know how that connects. Maybe I'm missing something. But there you go. You have an earache, reach out to Saint Polycarp.